All right, everyone, we will get started with Carter Smith
Recording
here.
in progress.
We will go Jeff Rabjohns and then Pete DePremio start us off.
Yeah, man, thanks for your time, first of all. Obviously, teams change as seasons go along. What are some things Oregon does better or different now than the first time you guys played them?
We see a lot of similarities. I think that's a team that really sticks to their DNA because, it works and it's shown against other competition this year. I think we're just going to come, there's a couple schematic changes that we have seen so far. It's still pretty early into the week for us. We're starting our prep today a little more in depth. So it's all about just keeping the main thing. Everyone has to be in their playbook and understand the schemes.
All right, we'll go to Pete next, and then Mike Niz.
Yeah. Greg, do you want me to go first and then Mike?
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
Carter, if you can hear me, can you talk about the physicality you guys played with and how much that has become part of your DNA?
You're just talking throughout the season?
Yes, and then certainly with Alabama too.
Absolutely. The biggest part of our run game is being able to break down a defense's will. And I think we've done that many times on film so far this year. We stick to our preparation, and all the things that we do in practice are going to translate out onto the game field. So making sure that we keep that speed and that physicality throughout practice is kind of our edge setter, and it is definitely one of our strengths. So making sure that everybody's on top of that week after week after week is definitely one of the edges we have on offense.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Mike, and then we'll go to Pat 40.
Yeah, Carter, you faced, Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon this year, rosters kind of with similar talent levels in terms of, 4 and 5-star guys. What about Oregon specifically, I don't know, stood out compared to those other two teams you faced?
Yeah, I think they have one of the better end cores throughout the Big Ten. I'd match them very similarly to Ohio State. They move the same. They're all very quick and very long guys. They're all very athletic, too, with a lot of good moves in their arsenal and pass pro, and they know how to play the run. There's always specifics with certain players. And, they were very great the first time around. There was definitely a challenge, and it's going to be a challenge this time, too. So I think they're going to give us their best shot, but they're going to get ours, too.
All right, we'll go Pat and then Scott.
All right. Hey, Carter, question for you. You guys have committed very few penalties this season, especially, of the longer 10, 15-yard varieties. What is the key to avoiding those mistakes?
Yeah, it's all about how you practice again. Making sure that you are on top of all the little things. I had one this past week my hand wasn't quite as inside as I wanted to when Fernando's escaping the pocket. That's a coaching thing. Not a coaching thing, sorry. Something that is coachable and teachable for me to fix in order to reduce those mistakes. And I think we've done a good job of that this year.
Carter, this is Scott. I wanted to ask you about Bob Bostad. He was the only holdover, and you've been there working with him. What does he mean to this program? What does he mean to the group, the unit that you play for, and then also for yourself and your development?
Yeah, I mean, he hammers the DNA of the offensive line into everybody in that room. He prides himself on preparation and repetition. Whenever he sees something that's different and something about a certain look that a defense will present, we're going to run through it like 15 to 20 times before we get into the game. So that way, whenever we see it in the game, we fall back on our preparation. So when Cignetti saw that, I'm sure that he was impressed with it. And, he has a great resume. He's been throughout the NFL and all throughout college football. And he was one of the main reasons I decided to stay here, too, because, I knew that having a great offensive line coach was what I wanted. I knew I wanted to be his offensive lineman too. So having those years under him and, the way that he's able to restack his room too, bringing in great guys for the room to lead, it shows just how valuable of an asset he is.
Next, we'll go to Daniel Flick, then Zach Osterman.
Yeah, Carter. We'd heard from Sig, I think on Saturday, about how a lot of you guys are well equipped to be really good in life after this. When you kind of reflect on where you were at prior to him arriving to where you're at now, where have you kind of seen you just grow off the field habit-wise from when he arrived here?
That's a good question. I would say that I've tried to better myself in terms of my religion, trying to be a better man of God and become closer with my Christianity, my faith. That's really important to me, and it's something that a lot of my teammates preach as well, so I think it brings good camaraderie into the locker room. I've never been the greatest at school. I will definitely admit that, but, I earned my degree this past year, and, that's always going to set me up for life whenever I need a job, and yeah, I guess exciting things are to come for me once everything's over.
We'll go to Zach Osterman and then Dana O'Neill.
Carter, a little bit off the wall, but I imagine you've seen more of him in practice than most. Daniel Ndukwe is obviously a player who even before Steven's injury, it seemed like we were seeing more of on the field, and now obviously he's taken on an even larger role. You've seen some really good edges there. You've talked about going against guys like McHale in practice. How have you seen him, Daniel, that is, kind of grow as he's been handed more responsibility? How would you kind of describe him at that position, and what do you think he contribute for you guys down the stretch here?
Yeah, he's a great kid. Ever since he got in here, I'm pretty sure he was an early enrollee in the spring in 2024. So, that shows his commitment to the program already, wanting to come early and get into his playbook and develop as a player and as a person. Out on the field, he breeds great competition. He's going to throw his hat down and he's going to play into your chest, and he wants to get around you. He's a really feisty defensive lineman, and I think that's kind of what set him apart on our defense too. He's starting to step up into a role of making plays, and it showed last week. He had a lot of great plays in Alabama and a lot of great stops. So his development is going well. I think he still has a lot more steps to take, but he's definitely taken a lot of steps in the right direction too.
Carter, a lot's been made about the calendar these days, and you were a guy who came in as an early enrollee. I'm just curious, kind of what you gained from that versus what you gave up as a high school senior, and given the chance if you do it again.
I gave up a volleyball state championship. My team went on to win that in the spring, so not being part of that wasn't the greatest. But coming here early was definitely for the best. Going through spring ball as a true freshman was really a blessing for me. Before going through a fall camp, it really opened my eyes to how much more of the game I needed to learn. And I think that's something that's big for any recruit that comes in. If you decide to come early, that's a big step in your career. And it's going to help you realize what you need to learn 6 months prior to when everyone else is getting there. So it gives you a head start. You're already being developed by a college strength staff, and there's really no downside to it. So I would preach that anyone who has the opportunity should definitely give it a shot.
All right, last one for Carter. We'll go to Sammy Jacobs.
Hi, Carter. I wanted to ask about the personnel on the offensive line. With the Johnny moving into a trusted starting role, how does that allow you guys to do different things? We saw you in the backfield, kind of in that H-back, running back, fullback position. But how does the trust in some of these younger guys and then Khalil coming in give you guys some flexibility at that position?
Yeah, it allows Shanahan to scheme a little bit. We saw that a little bit last week with me in the backfield, and that was a lot of fun. But, at the end of the day, it's about getting the right guys ready for the job. And, Demola was given that opportunity last week, and he did a great job too. The first half, he was in for most of the game, and, he balled out. I thought he did a great job. And I imagine that everyone upstairs is thinking the same thing, keeping him in that role. So he's done great for our room. He still has a lot of growth left, but he's also a young guy, so he understands that, and I think he'll understand his role a little more later in his career.
Great. Thanks, Carter.